Hello. Today I'm going to be showing you how to swap out the light plunger switch on a slide-in style GE range. This one will be from model number JGSS66SEL4SS. This may apply to other similar models. I would imagine most of the gas slide-in ranges will also be a very similar process. The reason for this repair, this light plunger switch right here is a high wear and tear item on these and generally can go bad. The issue is that there is a small silicone element on the inside that can actually contaminate the electrical components in there and over time lead to a premature failure of the switch, which at best case scenario would mean that it just doesn't function. But oftentimes we see this actually tripping arc fault breakers so that the oven actually trips the breaker every time you open it up, which is obviously no fun and not very useful. So I'm going to show you how to replace this switch on this style oven. It's a very simple process. All you need are a couple of tools and a little bit of patience. So we'll get right into it. So as far as tools you'll be needing, very simple. You'll need a Phillips head screwdriver, a T15 Torx screwdriver, and you'll also need a 1/4 inch drive socket. You can have that on socket set, impact, whatnot. I'm gonna be using hand tools just for simplicity today, but obviously you could use power tools to make this much faster. And then you'll need the genuine GE replacement part here. There's the part number, and I'll flip it over so you can see the back. Flip it in this bag. So if you can see that little white element right there, right in there, that's the piece that goes bad. There's apparently silicone in that. That creates an issue in this little plunger. I guess there's some contamination when they're assembling these units. To my knowledge, GE does not make this. This is an outsourced part. I'm under the understanding there is a replacement part coming that would replace that little silicone element since this is such a high failure rate product. But for the time being, this is the part we've got. So once again, there's the part number. It's just a GE genuine plunger switch. All right. So to start, we're going to actually get into this from the top. Believe it or not, it's faster and easier. The only thing we'll need to actually access here when we finally do remove the switch are going to be these two Phillips head screws, but we're going to do those last. So to start with, we're going to be taking these grills off and just setting them in a safe location where they're not going to damage anything. We'll just be setting them on this countertop over here for now, just setting them down gingerly since that is cast iron. You don't want to scratch anything up. So we'll set those down right there. Perfect. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to remove all of these little burner covers and just set them to the side. I just set them in order here so I know where they go without having to guess. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is you're going to want to pull out your range. We're just going to slide this out. A lot of ranges will have an anti-tip device in the back, which I'll show you here. So you need to slide it straight out. And then the next thing you're going to want to do just for safety, make sure we're not creating any issues here, is you're going to want to turn off that gas. This is already off here. And I should turn this off downstairs. And you're going to want to disconnect power from it. That way you're just not accidentally venting gas out in the room. All right. So there's going to be a handful of fasteners that need to come off. This is where a little bit of patience comes in play. We're going to be removing all three of these T15 Torx from around each burner. There's going to be 3 for each burner, so 5 burners total, so 15 of these screws we need to remove here. And then we have some more T15s. There are 4 of these along the edge of this control panel. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Then you're going to have a handful, you're going to actually have 3 Phillips head that go on the back here. These aren't absolutely necessary to take out. You can leave these in. I've just found that it loosens up this panel just enough to give you a little more play when you're pulling this up, so it makes your life easier. So do it if you want a little more room, but not necessary if you're willing to just wiggle it around. After all that comes out, we got a few more fasteners back here. This is where you're gonna get out your our 1/4" drive. You're going to have this top piece here actually has to come off for you to lift the face off. So you're going to have 1, 2, 3, and then you come over across here, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So 9 total 1/4" fasteners. Once again, you're taking out the 2 in the corners here. You don't need to get this guy. These 2 here. There'll be 3 along the edge there, and then these 3 in this corner. All right. So I'm gonna go ahead and get those out. Like I said, it's these 3 here, these 3 here, and these 3 in this corner. And then we'll be removing all these burners, our burner screws. The burners, you don't need to worry about them. They won't fall in. They're actually little metal brackets, and the gas lines will hold them in place. So you can just remove the screws. They may dip down a little bit, but they're not gonna fall in. So I'm gonna go ahead and get all these screws removed, set them to the side, and I'll be right back. All right, so we've gotten all the fasteners out. Like I said, 3 for each of the 5 burners, so 15 total. The 4 T15 Torx that are back here, and we got those 3 optional Phillips head out of there. We also got all of the 1/4" screws out of here. I will make a note just so you know when you're putting them back. The 3 that go in the corners here and here are the long ones. So you're gonna have 2 different sizes. The 3, let's see if I can get this. The 3 that pass along the back here, and I'll show you what they're holding in. Those 3 are gonna be little short guys right there, all right? So now all of our fasteners are out. What we're going to do is this top piece should just be free to kind of slide out. You might have to wiggle a little bit, but it should just wiggle free. And you're just gonna set that to the side. So we're just gonna set that right over here. Just be mindful of the orientation, how it goes in. It only goes in one way. Then you're gonna have this little vent here, and you're gonna have this little tray here. The tray can come out. We'll just set that to the side as well. All right. Now you're gonna have 2 more fasteners here you're gonna need to take out just to loosen everything up. They're gonna be 1/4" fasteners on the side of this vent. You're gonna have 1 on either side. So we're gonna go ahead and get those out. And then once those are out, this entire assembly will just lift off. So let me get those out and then we'll come back. All right, so we got these 2 fasteners out on either side there and there. So I'm gonna attempt to do this with one hand. We'll see how effective I am. But just very carefully, we're gonna get our fingers under the edge here. And we're just gonna pry it up. We're gonna go around to each corner and just kind of pry it up a little bit. You will have, there's a bit of an overhang here. So you have to just kind of work, when you pull this out a little bit. Like I said, I'm gonna attempt to do this one-handed. There we go. So we will just set that gingerly right there. And there's the guts of it. So you can see all of our burners, like I said, they're on these little metal gas lines, so they're not really going anywhere. They may fall down in there a little bit when you're putting these back. I'll show you a trick for getting those in place and just holding them, but you can actually just kind of stick your finger in there and pull it up so I'll show you that when we're reassembling. But with this top off, we can now gain access to that, what we were here for in the first place, which is that switch. Let's see if it'll focus. That switch right there. So you can see we've got a couple of electrical fasteners on the back right here, but you can kind of just sneak your hand in there and they will just pull right off. So just be mindful of the orientation. On this particular model, we have the white wire and then kind of a purplish, brownish, we'll call it like a maroon, and then the bottom one will be orange. So just be very mindful. Just because this one is like that doesn't necessarily mean yours will be. I would recommend taking a picture before you disassemble all this, just so you know which wires go where, so you can put them back where they belong. But now that we have that open, we can take these 2 screws out, and that will just allow that to release into the range. So I'm gonna go do that now and show you what it looks like when it's done. Okay, so with those two screws removed, you can actually, the switch will just kind of fall back into here. I would highly recommend leave your wires on until after you've removed it, just so it doesn't fall down into that cavity. But once it'll just kind of fall back down here. You can grab it, remove your wires, as you can see there. The good news is, actually looking at this, you can't really mess this up. They've got this, these are all, looks like they're clipped together. So there's only one way on and off. So this switch is not defective, so we're not gonna be replacing this today. We do a lot of these, so that's why I've got the parts. But as you can see, you'll just pull this right off and it'll just pull right off the end. There's here, I'll show you the switch. There's no clip, there's no nothing. It's just little metal prongs. So what you would do is you'd pull this off, you'd replace this with a new switch, and then you'd work it down into place. And you can see, let's see if I can do that one-handed. Yep. So you can see, you work that little switch down into place, and then from here, you can hold it while you screw your two Phillips head screws in. And then that's your switch replaced. And then reassembly is just the opposite of disassembly. So you'll start, once you've got that screwed in, you'll start by dropping the top back on and refasten everything you've got there. Remember, don't forget these guys here. After you get that top on, you'll need to re-secure that. But let me go ahead and get this switch screwed back in. I'll get the top drop back on. I'll get all the fasteners kind of in place and walk you through reassembly a little bit so you can see what it looks like. Okay, now with all the fasteners back in place, we can go ahead and put this tray back in the back. So just to reiterate what I've put back so far, so that nobody's missing anything. So we have 3 Phillips screws that go back here. They're little black ones. We have 4 these kind of shiny chrome T15 Torx that go along here. And then we've got 3 T15 Torx per burner. So when you're getting these lined up, when you put this back down, this whole tray piece here, these may or may not line up perfectly. They do have some play in them when they're not bolted in. So you can kind of stick your finger down in here, move them around, get them lined up. You'll want to get this little igniter element and that both lined up. Once they're lined up, they just kind of slide into place. When you're putting your screws in, you can also just stick your finger kind of down there and hold onto this to help align it. Once you get 1 screw done per burner, it goes much simpler. So the only other thing I'll say here is just be very careful when you're handling these fasteners, because you don't want to drop them down one of these holes here. So just, be careful, take your time. It's not a rush, because if you drop one down here, you're going to have to take everything you just put back off, and that's just a hassle. So one thing you could do to prevent that, if you want, you could probably stick a little piece of paper towel or something down those holes just to kind of block them up while you're doing that. Probably wouldn't be a bad idea. Just make sure you get those out before you put everything back. So right now, so this is all back in place. This is completely bolted in. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to set this piece right here in place. So before we put that back in, we need to put this tray. So this tray, it doesn't really sit in anything at first. So it just kind of slides in here. You can see there's a little groove on there. It just kind of slides over the edge. You can see there's a beveled edge on the end there. So it just kind of hunkers on there. So you'll see it just kind of sits on there like that. It's going to want to keep falling in. Sorry. It's going to want to keep falling in like that. You'll just have to kind of align it by hand when you put this top piece on here. So when you're putting this in, so you'll see that there is, let me get a side angle here. You'll see that there are these kind of little angular brackets that kind of help to latch it into place. So you'll want to kind of get it in there on an angle and work it in. I'm going to need 2 hands for this, so I'm going to get off. But essentially you just kind of line it up like this, and then you kind of work it around that vent there. So I'm going to do that real quick. I'm going to get the fasteners in. Once again, there's 2 in this corner here, and then 1 So 3 total, 3 here, and then 3 in that corner. So I'm gonna get those in real quick, and then I'll be right back. Okay, so with all those fasteners back in, I'll try to give you a good angle. So these 3 here, these 3 here, and these 3 here, back in. We're done back here. I will also say, I chose to take these 3 out for that little tray that I showed you. You don't necessarily have to take those out. This actually just bolts to the tray. So if you take these 3 out in this corner and these 3 out in this corner, this whole thing can lift up as one assembly. There is a bit more pivoting involved with that. So I think it's easier to just remove those 3 for the small amount of time it takes to take them out and put them back in. Because you have to kind of pivot the whole thing up at a weird angle there. And I don't want to scratch this surface here. So do it at your own risk. You don't have to take those out. It just makes things a little easier. So, I got the power turned back on. We'll reset that clock. But at this point, reassembly is pretty much just putting these burner covers on. So we just kind of set them down in place. And then you can set your cast iron grill pieces back on and you are off to the races. So I won't make you guys watch the cast iron grill pieces going back on, but that is how you replace the plunger light switch on a slide-in GE gas range. Hope this helps. Thanks.